It's the way it works for me. You know, I'm ready to receive when I'm ready to receive, and I received it. And I was like, wow, accept the things I cannot change. What a concept, you know? And just like my alcoholism, you know, I have to just do everything in my own human power to try and control the outcome or control a situation, or, you know, just basically bang my head into a wall as many times as necessary until I am just broken and beat down. And then I allow God to come into my life and I let go. And so for me, acceptance is what I want to talk about tonight. So, regardless of what fellowship you're in, I'm in the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. I qualify for a lot of fellowships, but Alcoholics Anonymous is where I found my recovery. And so I'm just going to read from page 417, which is the page I've been going to for about the last 3 weeks, to remind myself about acceptance. Acceptance is the answer to all my problems today. When I'm disturbed, it is because I find some person, place, thing, or situation, some fact in my life unacceptable to me. And I can find no serenity until I accept that person, place, thing, or situation as being exactly the way it's supposed to be at this moment. And this is my favorite. Nothing, absolutely nothing happens in God's world by mistake. Until I could accept my alcoholism, I could not stay sober. True? Unless I accept life completely on life terms, yuck, I cannot be happy. I need to concentrate not so much on what needs to change in the world as on what needs to be changed in me and my attitudes. Humbling. So I find this to be incredibly true, and I can't believe that I didn't grasp onto this concept a lot earlier. I think life could have been a lot easier, but I look at God as like the complete opportunist. You know, He uses every opportunity in my life to grow me, to stretch me, to help me get closer to Him, to help me rely upon Him. And so the only research I did do, out of curiosity, was the opposite of acceptance. So the words that came up, there was like 213 words that came up for the opposite of acceptance, but I just picked out the ones that spoke to me, and they were rejection, denial, dissension, opposition, disbelief, defiance, and then my top three: intolerance, hate, and egoism. That's me. You know, if I'm being completely honest, it's how I lived most of my life, and it's how, when I'm not in acceptance, it's how I'm living my life. And again, very humbling. It took me a long time to see how intolerant and judgmental and manipulative and all of those things that I am and that I can be. And I'm grateful that today, it's not that all of that's been removed from my life, but I have an awareness, and I see it when it's popping up. At least I hope I do. The things that I do see, I see. And I'm sure there's things that still haven't been revealed to me. But for me, the big one, egoism. You know, when I got here, completely hated everything about myself. So I kept hearing the word egomaniac. I'm like, not me. I can't stand who I am. I can't even look in the mirror, you know? And it's funny that the longer I stay sober and the closer I am to God, the more I see my ego. And it's absolutely incredible. And it has run my entire life. And I totally started this with, I skipped what I wanted to say when I first got up here. So I just want to say that it is good to be home. Higher power is my home. I first came here 13 years ago, before I got sober, and I came in here, and it's the first time I started to hear about a power greater than myself that I call Jesus, and I saw happy people. I saw people with hope. I listened to stories of hope. I said nothing. I didn't introduce myself. I didn't want to know anybody, but I absolutely received what was happening here. And it was so cool at about 2 years sober to be led back here. And again, I say to be led. I didn't come back here by myself. But I do want to say that my niece is here tonight. And let's give her a hand. And she is 15 years old. She was 5 years old when I got sober. It was her grandparents that were on leadership here that led me here. And it was so funny. I've literally had this, like, again, my ego, this whole pride thing about Haley has never seen me drunk. She doesn't have any memories of me being drunk. So I was going to share that, you know. And so we talked today, and I was like, Haley, you don't remember me ever being drunk, right? She's like, well, I remember this one time. And it was so cool, because I remember that one time too. And there was a lot more than that one time. But I I just appreciate what a gift that we were able to talk about that so openly today and laugh, because it's really ridiculous, and it was really sick. And when she was born in 2003, I lived in Las Vegas, because that's where I was going to get my life together, you know, and I was an absolute hot mess, and I lasted 10 months in Las Vegas, and Haley was born. And within 3 weeks, I moved home because I knew that I needed to be near her and watch her grow up. So it's just a complete honor and gift. She's everything I wish I was at 15. So yeah, just grateful. When I think about acceptance, I go back, to the beginning, and the first thing I didn't accept was myself. And that's where it all started. My first memories, I was not good enough. I didn't like the way I looked. I was ashamed of my family. Everything I rejected. And that's one of those words that came up for me. And gosh, I just wanted ease and comfort. I just wanted to escape anything that I was feeling. And I couldn't accept anything. And so, again, had no idea how manipulative I was, how dishonest I was. I really didn't even discover that till about 3 years ago, which is pretty amazing. It took about 4 sets of steps for me to really see my part. And I saw it loud and clear. And I've been doing the same behaviors my entire life, trying to control the outcome, and very covertly a lot of times. And it's humbling. So anyways, I also love what it said here about until I admitted my alcoholism. I did everything in my power, and I'm sure many people can relate, to not be an alcoholic or an addict or however you identify yourself. I tried everything. And the proof was in the pudding. It was right in front of my face. I was an alcoholic since the first time I picked up a drink at 8 years old. I drank till I blacked out. And I never drank any other way. And somehow, talk about cunning, baffling, powerful, I thought that was normal. And I convinced myself, just like I convinced myself that Haley never saw me drunk, I convinced myself that everybody did the same thing. And if I even got an inkling that they didn't that night, I just disappeared and convinced myself that they did. And it didn't matter how many consequences, how many, just shameful events that happened that I could barely, like I said, I couldn't look in the mirror. It didn't matter. I could not succumb to my alcoholism. It was so powerful. And really, the truth is, it was the only way I knew how to live. And taking it away from me was so absolutely terrifying. So when I did finally accept my alcoholism, again, I didn't really even receive this until, this past year, but everything changed. And what I love about recovery is we start with the symptom, right? And then all of these words that are in our literature apply to every other aspect of our life. So I can relate this to anything. Until I accept you, I'm just going to point to nobody, so I'm not pointing anybody out, but until I accept you, I can't move forward from it, and I can't be okay. Until I went through the same thing with food, I went through the same thing with cigarettes, I went through the same thing with dysfunctional relationships, and I was still trying to manage. It's absolutely exhausting. And it's amazing how much easier it really is to just accept. And so I want to talk a little bit about just the current situation and what brought me to really come to receive this and take this. About 8.5 months ago, my entire life changed. It started about 1.5 years ago. I shared here when I was about 4 years sober, the grief and the recovery from losing children. In my disease, I terminated pregnancies, I had a miscarriage, and those are the things that just kept me in my disease and kept me sinking further and further and further. And through recovery, I've been able to have healing and have recovery and make amends around those situations. And there's a lot of things in life I honestly have really never known who I'm supposed to be, what I'm supposed to do. You have people growing up, like my niece right now knows what she wants to go to school for, what she wants to be when she grows up. I've never had a clue. The only thing I ever felt deep in my heart is that I'm to be a mom. And so with that, I still did all these other things, that just had made me go lower and lower and lower. And when I got sober at 35, I remember thinking, because, of course I've got it all figured out, okay, I got sober, God got me sober, so that I was still young enough to possibly have a child, and, I just had the whole plan worked out. So 1 year goes by, 2 years goes by, 3 years goes by, 4 years goes by. I remember being like, I'm about to be 40, right? And it's about 3 in the morning, I wake up with a panic attack, and it's not gonna happen. How are you gonna, are you gonna be okay? And I remember I kept praying to God, if it is not your will, please change my heart. That's the only thing I knew how to do, because I really had come to this place in my walk with God and in recovery that I want what God wants for me. I know that I have no idea what's good for me. I still have my wants, and I still, bang my head into a wall or a door, or keep knocking on closed doors, until I get the message, but it wouldn't go away. There's a lot of things that God has changed as far as my wants and my desires, and that one wouldn't disappear. And I went to a fertility clinic. I thought of, picking a dad out of a catalog. I did all these things just prepping. Do I freeze my eggs? What am I gonna do? And so eventually, God just nothing felt right. It felt so selfish. And again, if anyone else has done those things, I'm only speaking my experience. For me, it didn't feel right for me to do that just so I could have what I want. And I had a friend that said, have you ever thought of foster adopt? I was like, oh no, I could never do that. And I didn't even know what it was, but I was like, no, I could never do that. And so a couple months went by, and I was still going through this. I went through a couple of really, broken record relationships, and same old, literally, since I was 13, I think I've dated the same man with different head and arms, it's the same thing. And I was like, okay, this isn't getting any closer, I think we're 42 now. And so eventually, she had sent me this link on Facebook Messenger that I never opened about foster adopt, and there was this whole foster the bay thing going on, and finally I opened it up, I'm like, what is this thing about? And it was this FFA agency that is in Santa Clara County, and I didn't know that we have them here too. So anyways, I read about it, and I was like, I can never bring a child into my home, fall in love with it, and then give them back. That's heartbreaking. And then, so happens, I have a sponsor who I knew that her sobriety birthday is the same as her son's actual birthday. I knew that he went to Hope House with her for a time. I knew all of this. What I never got was that he was in foster care for the first 6 months of his life. And so she told me the story at a different level, and she said she knew that woman was an angel, because it was hard for her, because every time she showed up, he didn't look at his mom the same way he looked at his foster mom. But she knew, and it helped encourage her to do what she needed to do to get her son back. And I love those two with all my heart, and I can't imagine them, she doesn't care, I can't imagine Carol and Gabe not being Carol and Gabe. And I thought, God, again, his will. I know enough from experience that if God calls me to do something, he will protect me. He will work all things together for my good. And so I decided to just go for it. I thought, why not? And then I had the whole, I'm single, I have a 1-bedroom condo, what am I gonna do? They're never gonna give it to the single ex-drunk, and all of this stuff. And I'm 42, oh my God, they're probably gonna think I'm gonna die by the time the kid's 5. And so I had all these thoughts. And so all these things that stopped me from moving forward. And I picked up the phone after 2 months of those thoughts, and I hung up on the lady. And then I picked up the phone 2 days later, and I called, and she answered the phone, and her name was Becky, and she was amazing, and we talked, and I voiced those few concerns that I had. She said, well, we treat you like any other single mother, and she said, oh no, 1 bedroom, that means that you can only qualify for a child 0 to 2, because we don't want to have to remove them from you. And I said, okay. So I drove all the way to Santa Clara for my first appointment, and let me just tell you, if anyone's piquing an interest in this, we have all kinds of them here in San Mateo County, but I didn't know that. So I drove to Campbell, and I had, but it's God. It's all God. So I went there, had my first meeting. She gives me the packet that I have to apply for, and the first thing is you have to get approved by the state of California, DCSS, whatever it is, but the Department of Justice and all of that good stuff. And I'm like, well, so I've got a couple things on there, and she said, okay, just do it, and then you may have to file an exemption. So I had to file an exemption. Yeah, they let you know within 30 days, and so what I had to do with that was explain the arrest. I had to explain my recovery. I had to get character witness letters. I had to do all of that stuff. And what was so amazing is that I could explain my arrest. I could explain my recovery. I could state all the things that have happened since that time. And the people that stepped up to write those letters for me and to actually read those letters, they were not things people would say about me before. It was, to me, when I was done with that process, if nothing else happened from that, I was like, wow, this is amazing, because I had a lot, that guilt and shame that even stopped me. It's like a scarlet letter, oh, they won't do it, I'm an ex-drunk, it's terrible. And to have that freed was absolutely amazing. Even a woman at my work wrote this 2-page thing about it. I was like, wow, gosh, nice to know I had that kind of impact on you and your family. But it was incredible. People really came through it. And so, anyways, after that, it was a series of different things. I had a flood, a leak in my house. You have to have a home inspection. So I went through, the exemption cleared, and then I went to my classes. So it's all these steps, right? You had to go get your physical. I get my physical and I get the MMR shot. It's the measles, mumps, rubella. I got measles, mumps, and rubella when I got the shot. It only happens to like 1 trillion people, and I got it. And then I went to get my blood taken, and I got called back. It was Halloween. I got called back. Sorry, we didn't get enough blood. Like, all these things were happening where I feel like anything you're about to do something like really amazing with and for God, you're gonna have interference, and anyone that doesn't believe that there's a devil, I can tell you that I believe, and I've met him, and it's real, and I never thought of giving up, and that's not the old me. I just kept moving one foot in front of the other. About a month after that, I was gonna schedule my home inspection walkthrough. I had to get my fire extinguisher, all this stuff, right? And all of a sudden, my floors start seeping up with water. I've lived there for 12 years. And I lived in Redwood Shores, and so I'm like, oh my God, we're sinking, the swampland, it's finally here, It turns out I had a slow leak from my refrigerator for the last 10 years, and it finally decided to show itself. So my hardwood floor had to be replaced before the walkthrough, and turns out that my flooring, the size, is discontinued. So after some research, we got to find, because I have a friend here, Dave, who does flooring, and he was going to replace the area of floors for me. Well, we had to, my mom helped and did some research, and we found the particular model in Canada. It took 2 months to ship. So we got that. So all these things along the way, and I kept thinking, I know there's a reason for this. I know there's a reason for this. And acceptance, right? Like, I want things now. I just want them to get done, bam, give me my baby, let's do this. And that was not the process. So after that, we did our walkthrough, and then I was told, just to be quite honest, they do prefer to give babies to at least one stay-at-home parent, so it may take a little longer for you. You may have like 5 placements before there's a child that you can adopt. And I said, fine, and all that stuff went through my head. Oh God, I'll be 62 by the time I adopt a kid, and then what if I want to get a sibling? I'll be 82. So, but anyways, within 2 months after I was done, I got the phone call, and I was driving home on a Thursday from work, and they said, hey, and so again, only 2 months since the end of the process, would you be willing to take 2 babies? I'm like, oh, what? And they tell me the story. It's a brother and sister. They're 11 months apart. One was just born. He was in NICU. Both were born meth affected. And they want to keep them together. They're looking at bypassing any reunification with the parents. This was child number 6 and 7 for the mom. And she didn't have custody of any of them. And they had already reunified once with the 11-month-old, and she had to be removed again. And so, anyways, I thought about it for about 30 seconds. I was like, of course. And then I hung up and went, oh, and, and then right away I was like, don't worry about it, they're not gonna give them to you. They're not gonna give you 2 kids, like 2 babies. And so then I just drove home, I didn't tell anybody. And the next morning I was at work and I was sitting there, hadn't heard anything. I was like, okay, that's good. It's Friday, whatever, the weekend. I don't think I can take 2 kids anyways. That's too much, blah, 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 blah. And I went next door. I work right outside our building. And I went next door to go see a coworker. And they have this bathroom upstairs, and it's just women only. And I went in there, and then by no kind of same way I used to drink, like I didn't even have the thought, I just autopilot. But I just got dropped to my knees in that bathroom stall and I said, God, please bring me my children. And I didn't even know that that's what I really wanted, you know? And I went back to my desk and there was a text that said, are you ready to be a mom? And I don't, just so you know, if you're sitting here going, God, he doesn't answer my prayers that fast, me either. So I don't know, that was a special one. So the very next day, I had a newborn baby that I picked up from NICU. And his name is Josiah, and he's now 9 months old. He's been here. He's got an afro out to there, and he looks like he's about 19 months old. He's very large. But this was a 6-pound tiny little baby that was born. He was 6 pounds when I took him home. He was born less than that, affected by meth. And you know, it was only at about 6 months that he stopped having tremors. And it has been such an honor and a gift to be able to be there with him. Mary, his sister, came 7 days later. She was 11 months old. I was her 5th home at 11 months old. And I should also say that Mary was already in a home for 2 weeks, and Josiah was going to another home that said they would take her as well, and they changed their mind. I think the woman ended up getting pregnant, and they were like, ooh, I don't know if we can do this. And so Mary came to me a week later, and oh my God, everyone who meets her loves her. I didn't. Like, I was like, what am I gonna do with her? You know, and if you think about it, she's 11 and a half months old, and I'm her 5th home, and she has a newborn baby brother, and she was loud and aggressive, and just, oh my gosh, it was a lot. And it was overwhelming, and there were days I woke up just in tears, crying. Josiah, you know, you're up every night, every 2 hours, of course, with a newborn, and then you have this cray-cray over there that just is needing a lot of your attention. But I didn't know. I mean, I had I had my doubts, and I kept just putting one foot in front of the other. And early on, the parents actually contested, and which, as they should, you know, and so I had to, at that point, I had only had the kids about 6 weeks, and my whole life had been flipped upside down. You know, I wasn't feeling all happy, joyous, and free with two babies in the house, and all these things were changing, and I had to make that decision and accept that those children may not be mine, but still, if that is what God has called me to do, it's all going to be okay. And so that was 7 months ago, you know, and I've had to continue with that. And, you know, we can talk about guarding our heart and all of that. There's only so much you can do that with 2 babies that you're taking care of day in and day out. And I can tell you, I don't even know what will I do. The strength and the perseverance, and you know, I'm a person that couldn't even, at 4 years sober, I still had a problem getting out of bed in the morning. You know, I had to pray for that. And the things that I have been through in this last 8.5 months, I'm like, who are you? You know, it's pretty incredible. And really the truth is I'm nothing without God. And the whole point of the program of recovery is to have access to God's power. And I've experienced it. It's incredible. And so I have had things happen to me in this last 8.5 months that I got accused of child abuse. You know, I'm co-parenting with active addicts, you know, and so there's been a lot of, I love you, and then you're my angel, and then there's been, I think she might be beating them, you know, and I had the state at my house, I had the county at my house, I had the San Mateo Police Department at my house, and all I have done is loved these children. And I sat there through those interrogations and interviews, and I just sat there, and again, that word that comes to mind is acceptance. Because at that moment, I had just moved into a new place, a bigger place that we could all fit into. I was in a 1-bedroom condo with 2 kids and a cat. And here are the cops at my house. And I thought, if this is how it all ends, and then I thought, well, then this is how it all ends, you know? Anyways, that's not how it all ended. And Monday, this coming Monday, so in 2 days, I was really hoping that it was going to be over before I share, because I thought, if I could just wrap this up in a neat little bow by the time I share. But God's will, not mine. So Monday is the last trial, and it will be over regardless of what the outcome is. And I'm so relieved. And all I want, and I can truly say this, I'm not in denial. If the children, for whatever reason, don't stay with me, then that's God's will, and I know that I'll be okay. Will I be heartbroken? Will it be hard times? Will it be another change? 100%. But if that is God's will, that is God's will, and I know that I've served Him well in this area, and that's acceptance, you guys. You know, I would just ask that if anyone remembers to just pray for God's will in this situation, in the lives of those 2 beautiful children on Monday, and. I think I probably had a bunch of other crap that I thought I was going to say, but I'm going to end it here and just say that God absolutely loves every single one of us, and whether or not we allow that love in and accept that love in is up to us. So, thank you.